Hello, I'm Marc, host of the Channel Chat podcast show, and this is a special series during this COVID crisis where we'll be sharing the learnings, best practices, and failures and successes of all the channel leaders throughout the tech industry. So sit back, listen, and enjoy. Hello, I'm Marc, host of the Channel Chat podcast show, and today I have Margaret Adams in the house. How are you doing, Margaret?
I'm good, Marc. How are you doing?
Margaret is the AVP of European Services, SME and Startups for International Data Corporation. So she is the person that's hopefully going to give us the information we need to anticipate all the changes in the market, Margaret. So big pressure here.
No pressure, yeah.
So obviously, COVID has affected everyone. There's no doubt about that. It's a worldwide crisis for most companies. But what changes are you seeing imminently in the market? And we're in May today, so how are we actually going to go into May and what's happening in the market generally?
Yeah, so I mean, this is obviously something we look at very closely. We're actually revising our market forecasts every month,
Right.
and that's how fluid the situation is. And to put some context to that, kind of middle of March, we created 3 scenarios, kind of a probable, optimistic, pessimistic. Come mid-April, our pessimistic view is actually our optimistic view, right? So,
Right.
so it is having a profound impact. We are expecting, I think, the overall year-on-year growth in the UK is around a contraction of about 6% and around a contraction of about 5% across Europe, there and thereabouts. So, after a period of sustained growth, that is obviously quite a significant impact. But one of the things we're doing is we also, every 2 weeks, we are doing a survey with customers, so IT buyers, kind of getting a sense of sentiment in terms of how they expect their spending to go. And because it's so fluid, we're literally doing this every 2 weeks to get a sense of it. And of course, there is an impact depending on the different technology area we're seeing, but we are seeing, not consistently everybody saying they're going to decline spend. In fact, the majority in different areas are saying, look, we're either going to sustain or actually increase spend. So it's not all doom and gloom, but definitely the priorities are changing, the reprioritization of projects. We're seeing big projects not necessarily cancelled, but certainly delayed, looking to really reevaluate what is important, what's not, of course. So they we'll see some sweating of assets and looking to use internal resources and things like that, which will have a knock-on effect on the channel as well. But there are some hotspots. I mean, obviously everything around remote working, so collaboration, things like VDI, security, quite a surge in demand. We're seeing acceleration of cloud. And I'll put that in context where companies were already moving to the cloud. They are accelerating those efforts. So there is a lot of activity. There's actually quite a lot of services work as well. Obviously, professional services impacted, but other services areas relatively robust, actually. So in the short term. Over longer term, we are expecting quite a big impact in terms of the services market, which again has a knock-on effect on the channel. But
how are you seeing all from the predictions or the sentiment around sort of field services people on the bench? Maybe they can't get out to remote working or they can't get out to different locations, etc. What's happening with sort of the field services people on the bench?
Yeah, so I mean, this is something that we've had a lot of conversations with partners on, both big and small, and it's obviously the sentiment with partners is we want to try retain that talent, obviously, to set us up for recovery. And so I've seen some innovative practices. Obviously, a lot of the vendors are bringing out additional training and packages so that bench can skill up. We've seen them be deployed for pro bono work and charity work, for example, for the NHS. It's really heartening, really, and I've seen a lot of that. I mean, it's really, really encouraging, and I've seen a lot of vendors support that, using partner resources for a lot of the charitable work they're doing too, which is great. I've also seen some really innovative practices, actually. So I've seen some partners move some of their best architects, the best engineers, into a customer success function. And providing things like ask an expert and an hour with one of our experts, or providing kind of that pre-sales model in an online forum and actually using them for their customer success. But possibly one of the best areas I've seen is again, shifting those engineers into that customer success function and approaching customers saying, how can we help you get the most out of what you've already got, right? And, are you getting value out of that? And I think, of course, it's not going to generate any commercial benefit right now, but I think in terms of the longer term retention of that customer, and again, we call it this hashtag Corona kindness. I think doing the right thing will really benefit in the long term. And to pick up on the point, most of the partners I spoke to have been amazing. There's just so much that has been done and continues to be done to help.
Yeah, that's fantastic. They can sort of turn service engineers into sort of customer success managers or whatever it is, actually proactively going out and helping customers rather than just sort of waiting for deployments of services. That's really, really good. Is that sort of ubiquitous sort of throughout the sort of partner community, or is it pockets of it?
No, it's pockets of it, I think, but it's a big pocket, so which is encouraging. A lot of partners also work with SMBs. Some of the partner advisory board members that we have, they work with SMBs, and they're doing a lot additional online training and YouTube, and quick and short and tactical and tangible to help those SMB clients adjust to things like remote working and so on. So again, being quite innovative and flexible in terms of this is the need right now, and adjusting and pivoting their resources to support that, which is really impressive. But I wouldn't say it's everybody, of course.
So over the last month, it seems to me that I've been speaking to a lot of partners and vendors, and it seems to have come in waves. The first 5-6 weeks ago, grabbing laptops and organising as much remote working equipment as you can get. Then there was like a 2-week lull, it seemed, and then there was a bit of a peak again around getting cameras and more permanent remote working solutions. As obviously it's May 1st today, what do you see as the sort of potential next wave of what's going to happen? Because it seems to be now that that companies are sort of thinking, actually, I've got to get these processes, I've actually got to streamline this business, I've got to actually think of costs, etc. And do you think has the sort of IT spent already been spent now? And because there was a when I was speaking to companies in March, massive big spikes in sales in record months, etc. April was okay, but I'm curious to see now what May is going to bring, because a lot of companies now seem to have got their stock of laptops, they've seemed to have got their stock of kit and remote working solutions, and I'm thinking now, what's the next wave of spend going to be in the next sort of 4 or 6 weeks?
Yeah, I think there is going to be spend. I think a lot of it was, there was panic buying. Then there was, okay, let's try formalize this. We're going to be operating like this for a while, as you pointed out. But I'd say that in my head, that's still wave one. I think wave two is going to be around security and securing those environments, and possibly, there was kind of we'll get what we can get. Yeah. What can we do quickly? And now it's going to be around, how governed is this? How secure is this? Bringing some of that more governance policies and so on to that. So, and to make it a little bit more permanent, I think there's growing acknowledgement that, this isn't a quick fix. So I think that second wave, things like VDI, things like cloud, but the security associated with that, and the optimization management around that. So yeah, if it's anything, it's more pragmatic and more sustainable investment. It's interesting, actually. We've just come off a wave of customer discussions, right? And talking to a manufacturer, they are remaining open. They're considered an essential service. But the CDO said, we're stopping all investments except for health, safety, and digital, right? Wow. Because for them, the digital investments, and this isn't traditional tech, but they were looking at things like low touch or no touch manufacturing and so on. So those kind of initiatives are actually going ahead. So there's opportunity, I think, in those areas. It is relatively positive, but of course, again, it's going to be quite discretionary. And I think for all the channel, right, there's going to be obviously much closer scrutiny on cost and looking for flexibility and shorter contracts and things like that. But I think, to win in this, it has to have a really tangible, not just return on investment, but really have business impact, right? And I think this is going to challenge some of the more traditional partners, to be able to build that story around, why this is important around those very tangible business use cases. So the partners are really close to their customers, really understand their challenges. I think they'll look to benefit, actually.
Do you think, there's a saying around, trusted advisor, that's sort of banded around in the channel quite a lot, that I'm a trusted advisor, but do you think now that partners are going to have to really be trusted advisors and really, really be close to their customers? Because I'm sort of thinking, and I'm hearing a lot in the market that, and you've almost echoed that customers are going to really be looking at their IT spend and actually think, is this going to be really impacting my business? Is this a critical purchase? If it's not, I'm going to put it off, or I'm going to sort of delay that spend. So do you think this will be something that the partners will have to sort of like look at their sales performance and sales, how they actually conduct how they actually interact with their customers and making sure they're actually getting the right solutions to them? Because otherwise it's going to be just like before, they might be just be able to take orders and because they're just getting inbound inquiries, but now they're really going to have to be more advisory firms. And I love the fact that the engineers are actually going into sort of customer success roles. I think that's great, because actually offering that advice and that sort of that technical support, it's invaluable for customers. But do you think they're going to have to sort of slightly change the way they've actually worked before with customers?
No question. And you bang on, right? It is a trusted advisor role. I think if you try to sell product right now, it's not going to resonate, right? Yeah. And talk to a lot of partners that they understand this, right? It's really important to get the tone right. And you can discount as much as you like. Customer's not going to buy, right? So I think it's really important, not just the value of what that product can give their customer, but I think critically also the value that the partner can provide, because and a lot of channel revenue comes from implementation, support services, and so on. But every customer has got the challenge of they also want to retain their own staff, right? And so they, of course, they're going to look very carefully at using third parties. So I think that's going to be, and that's why I said I think service is going to be quite heavily hit, because where they can use their own people, of course, they're going to try to do that. So it's not just the value proposition of the solution that they're selling, it's also the value proposition of them. And I'll say that a lot of the channel are really bad at this, articulating what it is. And they do a lot good, but they don't necessarily articulate that in online and in more remote ways. So I think that's the other challenge. A lot of the channel works very much on personal relationships and face-to-face contact. Yeah. You take that away, it means that there's a lot of noise, right? How do you cut through that noise and make sure that it's well understood what it is you can do? Yeah,
because I was seeing a lot from partners, which I think is great as well. Suddenly landing pages were coming out, and I'm an expert on this, and we can help you remote working on this, which they never did before, or we're having webinars on this. But the challenge is, if there's so much of it now, there's so much noise coming out, there's so many webinars coming out now. How are they able to cut through that? Because are they just sort of speaking to their existing customers and trying to educate them? Because trying to actually, there maybe is an opportunity to get new customers on because they can't deliver the services, etc. But there's so much noise now. So how are they sort of trying to cut through that noise of just constant webinars and landing pages, and we're experts in listening to their customers, and everyone seems to be doing the same thing.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I could be, and sometimes I am on calls for 10 hours a day, right? So I can't imagine being a CIO. I think, it is. I mean, I think that's the point is the ones that are cutting through, I think, are really tangible and really focused. Same as events, quite frankly, right? If you have a really focused roundtable for the banking sector or for people in healthcare, for people in real estate, and it's looking at process automation, get really specific and really tangible and really short as well, sticking to 15, 25 minutes. Yeah. I think that resonates. I think it's the more targeted you can be in that, I think that the more effective it is. I mean, in saying that, we've seen, the webinars we run, for example, we've seen, a huge spike in terms of attendees. So people are doing this. Yeah. But I think I recognize IDC's obviously got a brand though. So I think, for a smaller partner, it's really about getting tangible. I do think it's a good idea to market to your existing base. And to a point I made earlier, if you say, for example, a Microsoft partner, focus on giving advice on what they've already invested in, because chances are they're probably using 30-40% of the functionality, for example. So don't quote me on that stat. That's not. That's but how can you get the most out of what you have? And are there some add-ons and tools that you could add to this that would help you? So I think again, very, very targeted. And it is going to be difficult, I think, to get new business, and I think most partners recognize that. But I don't think it's impossible, provided that a more structured approach to how you communicate and using technical people for some of that communication, I think, is important.
Right. And my last question for you, Margaret. Obviously, there is going to be opportunities in the market. There's no doubt. There's winners and losers, etc., and everything. Where do you see as the opportunities for partners, in the next sort of, 3 months, where they can actually, potentially gain market share or gain customers, etc.? Where do you see the opportunity for them?
So certainly around, obviously remote, but I think that's understood. But I think that security in all forms, really, really important. I think I do see demand for things like remote delivery of services, be that a full managed service or just an innovative support package. But the pricing and the contract terms and the flexibility is going to have to be there, which is quite difficult in services, and to do it profitably. I think certainly partners that have invested in things like mobility, cloud, security, digital in all of its flavors, things like process automation, RPA, even AI, right? I think online training, there are quite a lot of hotspots, but it's again, it's got to be really solution focused rather than product focused. The product supports. I think my advice is, and every industry is going to be different in terms of those priorities, but those are kind of the consistent ones that we're seeing come through.
Brilliant. Margaret, you've been a fantastic guest. Thanks so much for your time. Thanks for joining us and listening to another episode of our Channel Chat podcast. If you've enjoyed what you've heard and are listening on iTunes, please could you give us a review and subscribe in order to get the newest episodes as soon as they're released. Otherwise, as always, we release an episode every Thursday at midday, so hopefully you can join us then.